What's going on, everybody? It is the episode 3 spoiler heavy review of The Last of Us. Thank you for joining me on the channel. I'm Kristian Harloff. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again. Nice to hear from you again. All that stuff. If you are brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, show a little class, will you? Subscribe to the channel. Trying to get to 70,000. We're almost there. We're getting close. We're getting to 65,000 at the moment. But hit that button. Subscribe. Do what you got to do. Help us out. Show a little. All right, so this is the third episode of the series based off the popular video game. You guys have been, I think, joining me so far, and again, if you're not, welcome. But what we do is just kind of go over the episode, give my thoughts as far as the I go in sequence is what I do, and we kind of give my overall thoughts on how it all played out. Now, I also let people know that I did not play the game. I am playing the game now, but what I am doing is I am playing it after. I'm playing up to each point. So, for example, like I'm just caught up now after all the events of episode 2. So, again, spoilers. Where I'm playing, Tess has just died, and they're right now. I'm in the sewers, which they don't do in this, or not the sewers, but he's diving underwater in the station or the train station or whatever the hell it is. That's where I'm at. But this, I was wondering if they were going to do that. They don't. We start at a very different place for this one, and what happens is it starts with Joel, and he's washing his hands, and he's got blood in his hands. That's what it is. He's got blood in his hands again, and he said it himself. He doesn't feel like he's able to protect anybody. Lost his daughter. He lost Tess. He's washing his hands in the rocks. He's trying to figure it out. He just can't do it. He's a damaged, broken dude. And what I love about not only what Pedro Pascal is doing in this role, just the character of Joel in general, you can see it's not like just this. I mean, he is a hardened character. There's no doubt about it, but it slips out, who he really is. The dad slips out, and the caring kind of due to who he is. It's not lost, and that's the overall point of this episode. That's the overall point of the show that I've gotten thus far. And he's there. I mean, there's a scene that we'll cover in just a moment here too, but just something that kind of pops out from him where it's just like these little things and these little pieces of development that happen. That's why, again, I saw somebody in my immediate reaction call this episode a filler. I think you're nuts. I think you're nuts to call this episode a filler. This episode shows the exact kind of message of what this it felt like a film, what this show is, could be, should be, the development. It develops Joel and Ellie without Joel and Ellie even being there. And that's the thing I don't think people are realizing. And I don't disagree with people that sometimes, especially Hollywood, feels that sometimes, if they're being yelled at Twitter, that they have to. Oh, wait. It's one thing that we have to force a particular thing, or there's sometimes where it's it's the popular thing to do, and it's a discredit to everyone involved. I think that happens a lot, and what people also, when people scream about it and say, hey, you're ramming it down our throats, and that happens because I think sometimes it's not done for the right reasons. But those same people who are screaming say it all of the time. This is a particular circumstance where this is the right reason. This is the story. This is about love. This is about furthering on to show that love is love. And there is hope behind that love. And it also showed the development behind what can happen in an hour and 25-minute episode that shows you the again, what you can't do in a 2-hour movie because you would lose so much. And what this showed with two characters, and I get it, and I also understand, again, spoilers for, I guess, the game here too, from what I've heard, is that Bill doesn't die in the game, or if he does, he doesn't die like this, and he dies separately, and he helps Joel with Ellie, and I think that's essentially what the letter was in here. But it's also the other thing that I really love about this is that the creator is the creator is there. Creator is telling the story of the game. The creator is there, and even directed, right? And I think that, not this episode, but I think that this really furthered the message of this so far, and I think it was absolutely a necessary episode, and it was a beautiful love story. It really was. And both Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, I mean, I think that it's too late for Emmy consideration. I think it would be next year. But man, my wife never says anything about awards. She doesn't give a crap about it. If it happens, she'll watch the awards, but she's not someone who's just like, oh, that person should be nominated. She said it immediately. And my wife is going to not bail on the show, but she's like, I don't know if this show is for me anymore. Because like, I think it's a really well-made show. This is after episode 2. And she's like, it's a really well-made show, but the thing with when Tess died and the things going into her mouth, she's like, that was hard for me to take. And then this happens, and she's like, all right, I'm on board, because it was a good story. It was good storytelling. And then I get into that, and I bring that up because just the start of this, right, where you start with the way that they maneuver this and the way that they write this show, it takes you from our main characters, and Joel he's just trying to figure it out, man. He doesn't know. He just lost, and we find out he's been with Tess for a long time, at least 13, 14 years. I mean, we see them in 2010, so who knows how long they were together before that. So Joel's hurting, but he doesn't show it the same way, obviously, that he did in the pilot, because I think he knows loss can happen at the drop of a dime. And this is one of those moments I was talking about with Joel, and he does it twice just in this scene alone. He's pissed off that he lost Tess. He's on this mission that he didn't really want to go on in the first place, and he's eating. And he realizes, I can't starve the kid, so he fires the sandwich at her or whatever. She eats it, obviously, and she tells him, she's like, hey, asshole, you chose to go on this thing. You decided you wanted to go. You can't blame me for Tess. So cut it out. And he does this thing where he's just like, yeah, you're right. It's subtle. Just watch the scene again. When she says to him, she just goes, cut it out. You can't blame me. You wanted to go on this mission, and it's not my fault. And in his head, he's like, and you could see, this is, again, what a great actor Pedro Pascal is, but you can see the thoughts kind of going inside of his head going, yeah, I want to be mad at somebody, but does it make sense to be mad at this kid? And again, the dad comes out, and he's just like, all right, you're right. Let's get out of here. And he softens from that. I mean, he's still Joel, but he softens. Like he's having conversations with her as they're walking, next to their next destination, and we find out some more information. She said she hadn't been in the woods before. They have like this trot. And again, what I really like, and I think that I'm just, and I think that this is something that everybody's got to get over with, is because after so many successful seasons of how long The Walking Dead was, and people, it's like, again, it's cliche for people to shit on The Walking Dead. That show was on since 2010 and had a brilliant run for a long time. And I stopped watching after, I think, season 5 or whatever it was too. And but that's another thing. It's a show. The show held on for a very long time and had its audience, and it set the stage on zombie television. And I know this isn't a zombie show. I understand that, and I agree with you. It's not zombies. It's different, but it's post-apocalyptic. There are things that you automatically start to think are going to happen because you've watched The Walking Dead, right? So right away, as they're walking through, I'm like, all right, here come all the walkers. Even there's no walkers, but and there wasn't. It's just the setup and the character development again of just learning these things of what has to happen, and the personality of Ellie, and consistently asking for a gun, and then they get to this shop of where he's like, yeah, I buried this thing however long ago it was, and he's looking around, and it goes back to what we talked about in the last episode was she's a kid. As again, hardened as she is and as smart as she is, she's a kid. So the first thing she does, she goes to the Mortal Kombat machine. She wants to play it, and she's pissed off that the electricity's not on it. But we also see a different side of her, which is another thing that I really dug, because it gets back to that whole thing where at the end of episode 1, and they talked about this in the post thing, whereas Joel's daughter was kind of horrified when she found out that he killed had to kill that the infected person, the runner or whatever. Ellie was smiling when he took out the cop. Like, she got a bit of a, sadistic thing in her. And I took this shot here because the set design in this show is fantastic. And I would be lying if I have like this I don't know what the hell it is. It's moss growing like right outside, like on my porch. It scared the shit out of me when I walked out of my porch today. I'm like, look at that. Like, any way to get rid of this? My wife's like, no, it's just leave it. We gotta get rid of this. There's mushrooms growing in the back over there. Kicked it into the street. This is messing me up. I had a mushroom burger the other day. I got nervous, and especially after the conversation that has had in a little bit. We'll get into that. It's going to be a long spoiler review. I'll tell you that right now. We didn't even get to a lot of this. So deal with it. This is like, again, the way that they shoot this show, and like, because this is the beauty of the show and why I go back to what I'm talking about, where you're just expecting. I said right away to my wife, I'm like, something's going to come popping out of there. It's going to be some kind of infected person there, going to cause some shit. Now, there was an infected person in there, but not in the way that we thought. And this shot alone, it's like, oh, why are you going down there? And she does go down there, and she hears the sound, and we're like, oh, no. Is that what I think it is? Is that one of the clickers? It isn't. This poor bastard. He got hit by the rocks, and he's not doing too good. He's got mushrooms coming out of his head. He's got a brick in his shoulder. He's like, come on, man. A clothespin on his fist, whatever the fuck that is. He said, come on. What are we doing over here? And she's like, let me stick this in your nose. No? He's like, can you stick that in my nose? She's like, I don't know if I'm going to stick it in your nose. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to slice open your head. Why? It gives me pleasure. You're not saying shit. So I'm going to cut your head. How you like that? And then I'm going to stab you in the head. So now you're dead. So she leaves. And she doesn't tell Joel about it. And that's the kind of like she put the poor bastard out of his misery. And I was like, and I even said as much. I was like, put him out of his misery. And she does, but she just seems to really enjoy it. She asked that question to Joel, like, if she's done, if she killed him, if he's killed somebody before, and one of the runners. And he asked more questions about, the scar on his head previously. And you start to get a little bit more out of Joel. And then there's this great scene. I don't know if this is part of the game. You guys can tell me. It seems like it's a game shot. I mean, that shot alone looks, but it's again setting up what the world was and people who lived in the world beforehand, and now people who were born after it, because this whole thing of he's talking about, and we see it later on with the car as well, but like he's talking to him, yeah, I've been on a plane before, and he charge you how much for a sandwich, and she's like, motherfucker, you've flown in the sky. That's amazing. And I love that. It sets up, it's little sentences like that people, I think, are passing over of how much, like, world building and setup and character building is. You got to listen to each piece of dialogue that is the growth. Because, yes, again, Joel and Ellie are not in the majority of this episode, but this stuff this is 20 minutes, by the way, 17 to 20 minutes out of an hour and 20-minute episode. You're spending this time, and you learn a lot about the both of them through both of these. Through this scene alone and the understanding of it, and you start to get we start to build on this relationship between Joel and Ellie, which is like the crux of the entire show. And then this is where we get into how it all went down and what happened. And then you get into, there are the theories about, the bread, and it reminded me of like the Joker in like 1989, then Batman, putting all the shit in the in the the products, but I know that's not what happened. It's just kind of the fungus just got in there and started getting into people's pancakes and all that kind of shit, and it just spread, and it was eerie because it was like very much so reminiscent of like the pandemic and how it started, like when you're going not with pancakes obviously, but like just the conversation of how did it all start, because she's like, oh, is it a monkey? And just this whole thing, and to shoot this show in the middle of either coming out of this or right around it. It's very, very, very eerie. And then she's like, I got to go check. This is the part of the show that I really was like, man, I love how they did that. And they didn't just kind of jump cut it. They do this kind of clever thing here, a tragic, clever thing. But she's like, what is it? Can I go see? Is it going to hurt me? He's like, no, it's not going to hurt you. It's just maybe something you shouldn't see. And again, the protective dad. And there's just all these bodies. And we find out once again what the government did. She's like, well, why did they kill them all? He's like, well, because dead people can't get infected. And this shot, man, right away with this shot, they double whammy you here, because you go, oh, fuck me, that's a little baby. Oh, that's a little baby. I'm like, oh, man, can't believe they did that. Oh, and then they flash, and then you see the little baby. And you're like, you sons of bitches. But you have to, because it's the power of it, and you understand what happened. You know right away these people are not going to make it. And you're saying to yourself, please, please, please don't show me what happens to them. I already know. I don't need to see it. And they don't show it to you because you know already. You know already. You don't need to see them get killed. You just know that it was powerful enough to see that. And then you go and you see them and you're like, oh my God. But it sets up this whole thing, and it sets up where we are. We're back in 2003. We're seeing the beginning. It's like, where are we going here? And then right away, after you've seen the episode and you go back to it, you're like, okay, these cameras, right away, Bill is looking. He's ready. And so when you see this shot of Bill sitting downstairs, this kind of was like the stuff I love the most about Lost. It gave me a Lost feel, the best moments of Lost, the best moments of like Walking Dead. Like there's stuff like Herschel on the farm and things like that they took over the course of a season that I don't know how they did it, but masterfully doing this in one episode. And again, it's because you're spending the majority of time just with this character, but you see so much from him. You learn so much as they're watching. They get everybody out, and Bill survives it, and then he's in his little den, and it's just quiet again, eerie feeling of him. Now he's looking. And he's like, do I have this fucking place all to myself? I do. I have this. It's Billtown. And he smashed, and right away you get, again, from out, you don't have to say a lot of stuff. He just does. And you're like, this guy knows what he's doing. He's a survivalist. He smashes through stores. He stocks up. He goes to the Home Depot. The place shuts down, and he smashes the thing. He steals a fucking boat, and he puts all the shit in there, and he goes in, and then he goes to the gas company, and he builds a freaking generator. And you're like, okay, well, this guy knows what he's doing. And he's cooking stuff, and he's chopping down trees, and right away, you learn about Bill in like 5 minutes. Everything you need to know about Bill, you got it. He's chopping shit. He doesn't need anybody. He doesn't need shit. He's like a honey badger. All he needs to do is just chop wood and then cook lamb or rabbits, whatever. And he's building out this fortress, and he's got this time to do it. He's cooking himself food, and he's got a gas stove now. And look at him. He's sitting there, and he's watching the monitor, and then this poor sack of shit walks over, and he's like, "Oh, you think I can eat some face? I'm here to eat some face." It's like, "No, I'm gonna blow your face off, and now you're dead, stupid asshole." And he's watching him, and that's his HBO Max, because he's looking and he's going, "This never gets old." I love it. The brilliance again of Nick Offerman. Nick Offerman is just a fantastic actor in general, right? He's been good in everything that he's been in. I've seen him in tons of stuff, as you guys have too, and I know that it's a Parks and Rec, Community, one of the two. I've never watched either one of them, so you guys can tell me. And I know that that's his like major role, so I can't speak on that role. That's what everyone talks about him the most at. Dramatically though, and maybe again I'll have to watch the show to see, but I think this is the best work he's ever done, like ever. He was so good, and it's also because of the chemistry that he's got with Frank, but we'll get into that in just a moment. But this all sets up who he is, what he's doing. He's happy. He's content. He could live like this forever. He doesn't need anybody, so he thinks. And he's got his wine. He's got his food. He's got his house. He's got his town. And he just goes out on his boat, picks up shit, comes back. That's it. He's got 7,000 guns. And he's been living on his own for 4 years. Oh, I didn't even see that. Is that? No, it's okay. Yeah. So for 4 years, he's been living on his own. Doesn't need nobody. 2007 rolls around. He hears some shit. Somebody fell in a hole. Yeah, is it one of these little bastards again? I'm going to have to shoot him in the head. So he walks over to kill the guy, but it's Frank. And it sets up their relationship immediately. It's like fate kind of brought him there, right? And he's talking to him. He's like, "What the hell are you doing in there? Who are you?" And again, because of Walking Dead, I don't trust anybody. Like, I don't trust anybody. I'm like, okay, what is this guy? Like the governor? Is this guy going to kill Bill? And then take over the town? And then is he the guy that's going to be a pain in the ass for them to get later? Or is he going to, what's he going to do here? Is he going to torture poor Bill? What's he going to do? None of those. He's telling the truth. You fell in a hole. And I don't know what to do. And he gives him a ladder. He helps him out. He tests him. He's like, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "Don't worry about that." And he's got this great line that they showed, and I wish they didn't show this in the coming attractions last week. But he's got this great line where he's just like, "Hey, if I let you eat here, you're gonna tell everybody about it, and they're gonna want a free meal." And they say, "Ain't Arby's." And he's like, "Arby's doesn't give away free meals at a restaurant." And it sets up the relationship again. It sets it up of they have like this thing where this is that again, just dude who thinks he doesn't need anybody, just his shotgun belt over his shoulder. He doesn't need anybody. And you got this guy who is a people person, and he wants to try to take any bit of normalcy from the previous life. And he says, "Let me just go in there." He gives him a shower. He lets him take a shower. He enjoys it. He's got hot water. He's living the life. It's like staying at this hotel. He's just 4 years. He's probably been on his own trying to figure it out, and he winds up here. And it also shows a lot about Frank. That, he trusts this dude. He sees what Bill is, and then this scene. Now, when you go back and you watch it, it's devastating, right? It's devastating because you got this whole scene here with when he brings out the rabbit and he's pouring him the wine, and ultimately where that goes at the end. Look how excited Frank was. So excited. He's in heaven. And drinking the wine, and this shot alone, they're setting you up. That's kind of like a precursor of what's about to come at the end of the episode, obviously. But they have this kind of their first dinner together, and the piano, they set up the Linda Ronstadt stuff, and it's a hilarious little subtle moment where he's like, please don't, sir. Please don't play that. You got to stop. This is not, let me do this. And he starts singing, and it's this nice moment. And I loved what Frank does. He eases, and he sees that this guy's in pain, and he eases in, and he says to him, he goes, "Hey, is there a girl that you're talking about, that you're thinking about here?" He's like, "There's no girl." And he's like, "Okay." He asks. He tries. He does his. He finds his way to say, "Okay, this guy. This is what I thought, but I wanted to make sure," and he does. And they have this beautiful moment, the two of them. And it's just like, this is to show you exactly who they are, no one's scheming anybody. It's love. It's pure love. The two of them, they just like, and you see this whole thing with Bill, and he's just, we haven't seen him in this place where he's like, okay, we've seen this guy so far, what we've learned about him already. We learned so much about him already. And he is, he's vulnerable in this moment, and he's allowing himself to be. And Frank is taking care of him. Frank's like, "No, it's okay." And it's like, it's not, again, because of just not just Walking Dead, but other shows. And I hate this about myself too. Sometimes that I expect the worst out of people. Sometimes, so I was expecting the worst out of Frank, and he gave us the best. He gave us the best, and that's why I think that for the people that's like, you're gonna get people who are gonna be assholes about this, right? And for me, it was set up in the game that Frank and Bill were a thing, and we didn't. I mean, again, in the game, I haven't played it yet. From what I hear, that I think that Frank's already dead by the time the story takes place. So to explore this in this kind of multiverse, if you will, and showing us why. And then it also gives a moment to you, like, okay, so I'm running out of the house. What's the problem? What's going on? And he's like, we gotta try to live some kind of life. And I did understand Bill's concern of like, we can't just use everything and spend everything we have. He's like, but we got to try to live some kind of normal life. We got to. And he's like, and I've been talking to somebody on the radio, and you're like, who? And this scene in 2010, and the way that they age people, by the way, I really like de-age, and they're not de-aged with technology, but just in how Joel looks a little younger, and they did it right. And it's the same thing with Tess, and Tess looks great, and it's again tragic because you're like, she's not gonna make it, but it shows you it's that setup. They're having like a normal dinner, and the two of them, it's like these personalities are all similar. Frank and Tess go off, and he's showing her around the house, like trying to live a normal life. And these two are like, we're not living a normal life here. And Joel's like, yeah, I get it. I understand. I'm with you. I'd be the same way. But get that gun out of my face, fuckface. He's like, all right, that's fine. And they have this mutual understanding that comes back to play later. He's just like, listen, man, you're going to have some problem with Raiders. And this is exactly what happens later on. But he listens to him, and he helps him out, and they have this relationship, and they talk. And again, the time jumps too. They weren't jarring. And you start to see like the aging process, and they do a good flip here, man, of like, looks like, what the hell's going to happen to Bill? Because Bill's not doing too well. And then this nice moment of look, we have been, because you trusted me, and because we went down this road, and we trusted trusted Tess, and we trusted Joel. We got strawberries. And it's like this little giddy laugh that Bill does, and it's just like, this is amazing. He's like, he gives him a kiss, and he's like, hey, listen, it's the strawberries, man. Show a little class. He's like, all right. So then the Raiders do come in. He sets I love his little gadgets he's got. I don't understand why he runs into the middle of the street, though, because I can't get in. Just pick him off from, like, he should have a spot. Instead, he's standing right in the middle of the road, firing at him, and he gets shot. And what I loved about it too, they didn't make Frank kind of cowering in the side. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? He ran right out in this middle of the street. He's like, let's go, dude. Get out of there. You don't need to be here. Let's go. And he takes care of him again. Could have been scared. Couldn't. It's playing into that ultimate love that these guys have for each other. And then I thought, because of that shot, man, it was that same type of shot that Joel's not the camera shot, the shot in like the from the gunshot. It's the same gunshot that the daughter got. At least I thought. I was like, Bill's not gonna make it. This sucks. And you're like, it looks like he crapped out. But then they fast forward again, and they give you 10 years later, and now they flip it on you, and now it's Frank in the chair, and you're like, oh man, oh no, what's gonna, like this? Now it's not looking good. Frank looking at Ray Stevenson a little bit. But he knows. Frank knows. And again, the aging done very well here. He's taking care of him. Remember, like the Notebook at this point, what's going on. And then he wakes himself up. He's like, look, this is it, man. This is it. I need you to give me one day. You got to give me this day. And this is the best that Offerman's great in the whole show, but this is his best work in this scene. Because you just see it. He knows. He understands. He gets it, but it sucks. He doesn't want to do it. But it gives him that day. He's like, you got to give me the day. And they go through it. They have the day. They wind up, they get married. They do what they have to do. They're sitting there at the dinner. And you go back to that original scene or the original dinner that they had. He's got the rabbit for him. He pours him the wine. And then he's got the two glasses. And I think this is where he pulls the switcheroo on the gaming audience. Now, I'm very curious to how many people who played the game were really pissed off about the fact that they took Bill out, because Bill's I have to play the game. Now, I very well might say when I come back after playing it, going, I wish they would have kept Bill around, man. How are they going to change this now? But again, it's I have more of a problem with it when if the creator wasn't involved at all. The creator's right there. He's like, look, because this could have been a conversation that they had during the game. He's like, look, what if we did this instead? But he didn't think about it at the time. And then he's got these people that he's working with now, because he could go, no. Bill needs to be there. And he could have fought it. He said, Bill needs to. He didn't. He's like, no, this could be a good switch and a good way to deviate. And there's going to be sometimes we deviate from the game, and there's going to be sometimes we don't. And they deviated from it. So there's this kind of tragic moment, Romeo and Juliet kind of. I shouldn't say that. It's not true. It's not a Romeo and Juliet. It's Romeo and Juliet had Juliet really been dead, or dying. But it's like this moment where, and I love that Frank wasn't that mad at him. Frank's like, I should be mad at you, but it's romantic, and I get it. Bill says it. He's like, you were my purpose. I realized that you were my purpose. So let's get the hell out of here, and let's make it. That's it. That's our journey. It's over. And then we come back. We come back to Joel, and because I had said, I was like, how the hell is Joel's going to get in? He's got the code. You see that this symbol of the flowers are dead. They walk into the house, and he's like, stay here. Because I had asked that question. I'm like, wouldn't it stink in there? Because who knows how long it's been, but he leaves. He goes. He can't get into the room, and Ellie's got this letter, and he reads him the letter. It's to Joel, and he's like, probably Joel. To anybody who finds this, but probably Joel, because anybody else would have been killed by the electric gates, whatever. So he gives him, and Joel's listening. He doesn't want to read. He wants to listen to it. And then there's this keep test safe, and he knows I didn't do that. But he goes and he's got to get past that sorrow again. He doesn't have to worry about the engine anymore. He's got the car. He goes, show me that bite. He shows the bite. He's okay. This is my purpose now, and that's the overall point of all this. She is his purpose, and this is maybe the other two he couldn't keep alive, but this is his purpose. This is what he's meant to do. This is how important he is to keep this girl alive, to get her safe. And he tells her the rules, and they have this dynamic. They play it together, and she asks again for a gun. He says, get lost. You're not getting a gun. And then she finds a gun anyway. And he takes a shower. They get in the car. And then, again, going back to that kind of airplane scene, it's like, I've never been in a car. It's like a spaceship. He's like, seatbelt. And she's looking at him like, huh? And he, like a father, puts it over her shoulder. Like, I like the gentleness of it and how he did it. And then they get the hell out of there. Man. They drive off, and then there's this beautiful shot of the window just being open. And it's funny because as they showed it, my wife's like, oh, they're not going to show them, are they? And I was like, no, they're not. There's no chance that they show them, because that's not the point. The point was this kind of poetic thing. The window was open. Both missions were accomplished. And Bill left that letter for Joel. And both missions were accomplished. And now because of the sacrifice of what Bill did for Frank, and because of the love that those two had, and because they show that in that world of despair, there can be something to fight for. You can save somebody if you choose to, and you choose to not be, you're selfless. If you can do that, you can make it happen. And to Joel and Bill are so similar that I think it makes Joel go, huh, okay. Because someone had said in the comments, well, the whole point is that Bill convinces in the game, Bill kind of shows Joel that he needs to take care of this girl. They did that in this episode. Not the same way, but they did that. They did that with the message of love. They did that with the message of sacrifice. They did that with the message of purpose. So I thought it was brilliant. I really did. It was cinematic, and it was really something else. Now you can, if you want to, you can make it political. I did not, and I listen. Like I said in the beginning of this, I think there are times where people make it political to either avoid scrutiny, and they make it political because they want to capitalize on things. But then there are times when just brilliant casting, brilliant. This to me made sense. It made a lot of sense, and it was a gorgeous and beautiful love story. And I think that Murray Bartlett and Nick Offerman were just incredible. Everybody in this episode, Pedro Pascal, everybody was great. So, like I said, it was a longer spoiler episode today. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. What did you guys think? I want to get all the comments in here because I know there's going to be a lot of them. So go ahead and comment. Tell me what you think about the episode. Tell me if you were a game player, did you like what they did with Bill? Do you think it worked for the story that they're telling in this, or do you think that they could have kept Bill alive and done it, differently? So go ahead and let me know. I got to know all your thoughts, and not just on that particular topic, but anything you want to talk about. Go ahead and please, let's have a discussion on it for sure. And once again, I always ask you, if you're brand new, you got to show just an ounce of class here and subscribe to the channel. We are getting close to 65,000 right now, so we hope that you join us. Thank you guys so much for joining me for The Last of Us. This was a lot of fun to talk about. It was a really great show. Thank you guys so very much for being here. And for myself and no one else, because I'm the only person here, thank you. And we'll see you next week for The Last of Us spoiler episode.